What we're trying to do here is kind of understand some fundamentals and principles of low light, specifically white light stuff. The first question that comes into mind here is low light an advantage or a disadvantage? And the question that I like to pose to most people is, if you're in your home and you're working inside your house, I've heard two theories or schools of thought there. The one is that somebody's in my house, so I go around and turn all the lights on so that I can see what's going on. Personally, some people say that's the smart thing to do, you know, see what's going on in your environment. Personally, I would prefer that the lights stay off because it's my house. I know where things are. When I turn the lights on, now it's a fair fight. Everybody can see what's going on. And depending on how much time you spend working in the dark, the more time you spend working in the dark, the more of an advantage it's going to be for you. One of the things that if you don't spend time working in the dark, which most people do not, we find it as a disadvantage. One of the other kind of things to understand here is, what are we using light for? What we're really using it for is to try to help us deal with the dark environment. 2400 vision is pretty bad vision, right? That is the vision that we have while we are becoming dark adapted. So in other words, when we go from a lighted environment to a dark environment, we are in a situation where we cannot see well at all, right? Our vision goes really, really bad. So we're using white light for several purposes. The first one is to navigate, meaning move about, not fall down, get hurt, bump into things and all of that stuff. So that's one of the reasons we're using the white light. The other reason is to locate and identify. And this is an important terminology that I think makes a big difference when we start bumping up on tactics, meaning we have to find what made that noise or that bump in the night, and then we have to identify what or who it is. Okay? It may or may not be a threat. So the white light gives us the ability to do that because for the most part, depending on where we are in our light adaptation, we have 2400 vision possibly, and we can't see really well. So we don't see, as human beings, see very well in the dark anyway. We can also use it as a control tool, meaning keeping someone where they are. When someone is trying to hide and be away from you, when you turn the lights off, okay, and it gets dark again, that gives them the ability to move somewhere else unknown. Whereas when you have the light on, or they can't move anymore with the cover of darkness, so you can use that as a control method when you're dealing with someone in a low light environment. The other piece of that is what the light does to someone if they are dark adapted. Even if they're not dark adapted, when you start talking about a very bright light, it dramatically affects their information gathering capabilities. Meaning when you hit someone in the eyes with a large amount of lumens, it makes it very difficult for them to see and process information. Taking that ability away from them causes them to lose balance, lose control, and lose their ability to make wise decisions because they're not receiving information through their eyes anymore. The other thing that it does for law enforcement that they found out is when we hit someone with a large amount of light, all of the control tactics techniques to take someone down work way better. If they have a lot amount of light in there, if you've ever done control tactics in the dark, somebody goes up and puts an arm bar on someone, and when they've got 600-800 lumens in their face, they come down a lot easier than they do when they're in a lighted room with no light in their face. So this is something for you to understand from a tactic standpoint if you get in that environment. So we want to aim for the center of the pupil. We want the light, if we have one, and we're trying to use it as a control tool, we want to put that light directly into that person's face, right into their eyeballs if possible. We can use it as a communication tool, specifically when we're in a team environment. You see this a lot when you start seeing people do team environment force on force, and they are in that locate and identify mode. They're looking for a good guy in force on force, and then they finally see the person where they're hiding. How do they normally communicate with their partner? There he is, he's right there, he's over there, there he is. What did I just tell you guys? Absolutely nothing other than the fact that I saw him, right? When we do have a white light tool, all right, especially handheld, we're talking about now, we can use that light and we can, right there on my blinking light behind the white truck, right? And now clear communication of what you've seen and where that is. Let's talk about some of the things we have to be careful of doing. Telegraphing our movements. All you have to do is watch any law enforcement television show and you will see this all the time. And I know for us in law enforcement, it drives you crazy because you see someone, they got a white light on their gun or they're using some sort of flashlight technique and they're walking around the house just shining that light wherever they're going, pointing it. And when you're doing that, you're basically going, here I come, I'm almost there, I'll be there in just a second and you'll be able to shoot me. So we have to be cautious when you're using a white light. When we turn that light on and we leave it on, we're not talking about tier 1 unit that's doing a hostage rescue mission where we're flooding the building with people. We're talking about you or a couple of officers or something like that, or you and your family using a white light in a semi-known or unknown environment. When you turn that light on, it works both ways. It identifies your location, so we have to be cautious of that. What we want to do is vertically and horizontally displace the light. So when we're using a handheld light, and we're going to talk about this in a minute on why we always want to have a handheld light, we want to change the location both vertically and horizontally. We want to change the rhythm of the duration that the beam is on and the angle of the beam. So in other words, we're going to constantly be changing it when we're in that locate and identify mode so that we are not telegraphing exactly where we are moving or coming from. Self-blinding is another issue, especially with the brightness of lights that we have on the market right now. You have to be cautious of where you're using the environment that you're in and how you're using the light. If you walk up to a white wall to peek around the corner, or a mirror or a picture frame or anything like that, and you nail it with all that looms, where do those looms go? Right back into your face. And that is something that you need to be aware of. One of the things that we're going to work with later tonight. Backlighting. Especially if you're in a team environment, and this goes into reading the light, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but when you're moving through thresholds or you're moving in and around, you have to pay attention to the light and understand the fact when you're coming into the room, or in this particular case, your partner's behind you, turning his light on, going, hey, what's going on in there? As you go into the room, completely giving your silhouette away. Let's talk about the principles a little bit. First of all, read the light. You have to pay attention to the light and the environment you're in and understand how it affects you, where the light is coming from. And that doesn't matter if it is emergency lights or if you're in a building somewhere, everybody sees when the lights go out, you still have those emergency exit signs. You have those battery powered emergency lights that are coming on. All of that light affects what you can see and what others can see. One of the biggest principles that's important to understand is operate from the lowest level of light possible. Meaning if I don't need my flashlight on, I don't want to turn it on because I'm giving away my position. If I can stay in the shadows, I want to stay in the shadows. See from the opposite perspective. This tees right on the back of reading the light, but you have to pay attention to the environment and understand what they see when they're looking at you based on the light. And this is going to tell you how you need to use your light and how important having a white light or being able to use a bright white light is. Light and move. So the point here, and again, we're in a locate and identify mode. When I turn my light on and I look around in the area, when I turn my light off, operate from the lowest level of light. So I want to move in darkness if possible. So when I turn my light on and I look around, if I didn't see anything, it's time for me now to move somewhere else and not stay in that spot where I just was. Because if someone wants to do me harm, I'm still standing where they think I am or where I just was. Power with light. And this one comes right up on the tail of control of one of the things you can use it for. Once you have located someone's position, if you are in a position of cover or you are in a superior position, you want to keep your light on and keep control of that person with the light. And the example I would give is we're looking for someone in this parking lot, let's say, and they're over there hiding behind the truck. And we see them. I had someone once tell me, because it's like a military-based tactics, well, I want to move in darkness, right? So I turn my light off and then I move up close to see where they are. What do you think is going to happen when I turn my light off once I've located him? He's not going to stay there. Okay, so once you've located, hopefully you're in a team environment, but ideally you want to keep your light on from a position of cover to maintain visual awareness of where they are. If you turn your light off, you're going to have to find them again. The other principle that's important, and this gets to be interesting, of how we evaluate flashlight techniques, and that's align three things. The three things that we need to align, and really it's actually probably four things, are the gun, the light, and your head. In order for you to engage accurately, you need the light pointing in the direction of your target, and you need to be able to get the gun in alignment with your head. And of course, obviously the target being the fourth thing in there. So all three of those things, or four of those things, need to be in alignment, and that's something that you should use as a way to evaluate your flashlight technique and how you use it. Carry more than one light. And I'm gonna back into this here in a minute in one of the other slides, but this is definitely a situation where 2 is 1, 1 is none, especially right now. It seems to be all the vogue that I'm going to put a weapon mounted light on my pistol, and then then therefore I don't need a handheld light. I don't think that is the case at all. You still need to have a handheld light, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But this was really important many, many years ago when we had incandescent bulbs in lights and they died all the time. And having a backup light was extremely important.